Joyce, I think,
I'm gonna-
got it. Never, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So I'm going to start with organics, which essentially is food and yard waste. And we're going to be talking a lot about diversion from trash. It's the separation of organic waste from our garbage, which we do in our kitchens. Composting, I'm sure you're waiting to hear about that. And we're actually not going to tell you how to compost, but we want to tell you that it's a critical form of recycling, a natural way of returning needed nutrients to the soil, a biological process during which naturally occurring microorganisms, bacteria, and believe it or not, insects, I've seen them, break down organic materials into something like soil. And that's what compost is. It's what happens to the organics after we divert them from trash and get them picked up. Curbside composting or the brown bin program. This is the Department of Sanitation's free service collecting organics weekly from the brown bins it provides to eligible buildings. What does that mean, eligible buildings? Well, in Manhattan, these are buildings in community district 6 and 7. The management of such buildings having approved participation. And we'll be looking at the maps for these two districts in the next slide. But before that, we want to talk about a great opportunity for everyone in Intro Bill 244, it's New York City's council. It's going to require mandatory universal curbside organics collection. It would make all community districts in our city eligible for curbside composting. And yes, it would require all buildings to participate, regardless of the desire of management, which has been a big problem for a lot of us. So we want to work to pass this law. Now, there's also community composting drop-off sites. And I think maybe we can put the intro bill and the drop-off sites in our chat so people can get the link to them. That would be helpful. So these drop-off sites are where you can deposit your organics, and they often are at Jerry Sue. They're often at farmers markets, and we advertise the days and hours of operation. Unfortunately, they're not always available, but they are a good option. So next slide, please. And so here are the two maps. These are the two eligible districts, 6 and 7. Maybe you can see your place. We understand that there's only one District 6 sign-on, I believe, from among those of you who are here, many from 7 and many from outside of 7 as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'd like you please to answer in the chat. Tell us if you already divert your food waste or want to. And we want to know if your building has these brown bins. There's a picture of them, and if you use them. And if you do live in either of the eligible districts, but you do not have the brown bins in your building, and you want assistance in gaining access to the service, let us know. We'll try to help you. So that's something that we want you to add in the chat as well. And if you use a community composting drop-off site, let us know that as well. So there's a few things we're looking for in the chat. We'll read some of the answers. Already I see that Adele is saying my building participates in the composting. Always good to hear, because there are stumbling blocks to make one eligible for participation. Okay, Susan is saying my building does. Okay, thanks, Sharon. It's that's one of the links that we need. Okay.
I've posted the 3 separate links that you've talked about.
Okay, great. Thank you. Right. Okay. Still posting. Okay, so Adele, what does Adele say? Do you have it? Oh, I know Kathy doesn't have it. But yes, Kathy, we do have a convenient drop-off site on 97th Street. Yeah. Sometimes those managers are just so difficult, so frustrating. Should we go to the next slide as people respond? Okay. And so I'm turning it over now to Allison Allen, who heads the board's organics committee.
Yes, hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. Very much appreciate your interest in exploring how we can all actually impact climate change from our kitchens. It's so great to all see all these like-minded people. So what does our food waste have to do with climate change? We wanted to get into that because the food waste that comes from our kitchens actually does have a significant greenhouse gas effect, because food scraps sent to landfills and incinerators release methane into the air that exacerbates climate change. You may have heard that methane is a powerful greenhouse gas that actually traps 80 times more heat, so it creates more warming in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. And our food waste is shipped off to landfills where it decomposes, where it emits this methane, actually making landfills the nation's third largest source of methane emissions after the oil and gas industry and after the agricultural industry, largely due to livestock production. So if you reduce your meat consumption, you can have an even greater impact on climate change. Another staggering fact that I found is that globally, food waste is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas, next to only China and the United States. And that's from a UN report. And there was another UN report just in 2021 that really raised the alarm and proclaimed a code red related to climate change, which, you know, you can see when you watch the news and you see the endless wildfires and floods and other natural disasters that seem to be occurring with increasing frequency. So many people, you know, that we just want to do something. And the fastest way that each of us can help mitigate climate change is by reducing our methane released into the atmosphere, by simply reducing the food waste that we send to landfills. As it doesn't belong in landfills, and it shouldn't be burned off in incinerators. Instead, we should be diverting all food waste for composting or biogas generation, because we do have these much better options, which are much less harmful to the planet. We can all use either Department of Sanitation's curbside compost collection program in the brown bins, or by taking our food scraps to the local food scrap drop-off. You can even do composting in your kitchen, but we're not going to get into that today, but that's another option. So I'm going to toss to Stan, who's going to talk more next about the most recent news on climate change impacts created by methane emissions.
Next slide, please. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I had the privilege of going to the COP27 in Egypt this past November. And for those of you who don't know, COP stands for the Conference of Parties, which is the annual gathering of the countries of the United Nations to find solutions to climate change. Now, this year's COP27 was held in the resort region of Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. And over there were a lot of things that were discussed, but obviously I wanted to highlight the big thing, which Allison had mentioned, which was the global climate methane pledge, actually, that was launched in November of 2021 during basically the previous year's COP26 in Glasgow. Now, basically the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they have basically the latest report is that human-driven methane emissions are responsible for nearly 45% of the current net warming. So basically the IPCC report has emphasized that basically in order to reduce anthropogenic emissions, which is man-made emissions from methane and other climate pollutants, we really need to focus on methane reductions. So methane reduction is the fastest way for us to really get to our near-term climate goals. So the Global Methane Pledge has a goal of cutting man-made methane emissions by at least 30% by 2030 from 2020 levels. And basically, it's absolutely critical to keep us within the 1.5 degrees centigrade target that the UN has set for us. Now, the United States is actually a signatory of the Global Methane Pledge. In fact, the US has stepped up, and it's also, along with being a signatory, it's also published like, a supplemental proposal on reducing harmful emissions and energy waste that will achieve 87% reductions in methane emissions from covered sources by 2030. And also, the US has also created what's called the Super Emitter Response Program. It's complemented by actually $1.55 billion in financial and technical assistance from the US EPA. And it also implemented a waste emissions charge. So like, the US is stepping up, and the United Nations really has recognized that methane is such a big problem, and for us to really focus on that. So as we can see, there is a concerted effort on the national level to tackle climate change through methane emissions. But we can also do our part, as Allison had mentioned, in the efforts to reduce the methane emissions by doing something about food waste. And on that note, I'll pass it back to Allison.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stan.
Next.
You want to advance this slide? Oh, so does this, I just want to take a pause here and see if people have questions on what you've already heard. Is this new information for you? And does knowing more about the connection between the food waste that we generate and climate change make you more interested in diverting your food waste? So if you'd like, you can raise your hand. We don't have too many people.
Well, I have a question. Sorry, I have to put on my camera. Okay.
Thank
I have a
you.
question.
Sure.
So you're saying that our food waste is third after China and all the other polluting countries, but they have so many more people, so their food waste is going to be 10 times more than ours. They're going to have food waste also.
The statistic wasn't for US food waste. Statistic is for global food waste.
Okay.
It's the third largest emitter behind
Those countries.
those countries.
Behind what? Coal, whatever you're using?
Whatever those countries are emitting.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Thank you.
Okay, it's a difficult concept to understand, but it's huge.
Yeah.
It said globally, food waste is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, next to only China and the US. So just food waste globally by itself is the third largest greenhouse gas source in the world, behind China and the US, which produce more greenhouse gases than food waste by itself. But that's only two countries. Food waste, if you could eradicate it globally, would do an enormous amount to reducing
Right.
The climate change, keeping it at 1.5 degrees centigrade.
Yeah, but when you say after China and America, I'm just curious if you could please clarify what you're referring to. Like, what is it that's causing the emissions? Is it gasoline? Is it airplanes? What is it?
Everything collectively. So China as a country, it emits greenhouse gases from a large variety of actions,
Yeah.
whether it's fossil fuels,
I'm
whether
listening.
whether it's methane from landfills, whether a variety of things. So the US does too, but all of their emissions, China is the number one emitter. The US is the number two emitter.
Yeah.
But if you could tackle food waste globally, you would eliminate the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Am I saying that right, everyone? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sounds
I
right.
I think the
But it's
comparison,
surprising.
I think the comparison was based on industrial production versus the
Yeah.
methane created
Yeah.
by.
But even more than India, I'm surprised India isn't involved because they have such a high population.
They
also.
do, yeah, no, they do, but I think they're behind China and the United States in
Yeah.
terms of carbon emissions,
And-
greenhouse
and
gas
development.
emissions. And development.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Before we go on?
In the chat, Marianne, you said India is number 3 in terms of country emissions, Marianne?
Could be.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That makes sense, just in terms of population.
Yeah, just
Okay,
in
but
terms of
Adele-
numbers, in
Adele
terms
has
of
a
numbers,
question.
for a
Yeah.
point of clarification, China is like 10 point something gigatons annually, like, according to 2019 measurements. All right, the United States was 4.8 gigatons. All right, and food waste emissions are 4.4 gigatons annually. So that's where those numbers are coming from.
Okay, that's
Global
helpful.
food
Anne.
loss and waste, yes.
Okay. We have a hand raised. Adele Niederman. What's your question, Adele?
I would, in this conversation about food waste, there was an excellent article yesterday's Times in the food section about composting, and not just food composting, but the fact that we do end up throwing away a lot of food, even food that may still be good or just unused. And so that may change some of the statistics as you compare us to a poorer country. And it's an excellent article to motivate your neighbors to begin composting and to maybe motivate some of the people in your building.
No, that's helpful because we
Thank you.
need to motivate. Okay, we'll look for
Yes.
that article. Yes.
We couldn't agree more. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, and we will be going into food waste. We have some discussion about that as well. Anyone else raise hand, want to comment before we move to the next slide and back to Allison?
And to keep it interactive, Adele, if you wanted to post the link to the Times article, that'd be great.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so in addition to the climate change impacts, there are a number of other benefits for preventing food waste from going to landfills, where it does release this nearly 1 million tons of new methane into the air each year. So that would be enough of a reason for many people, just the climate change issue, but certainly not everybody. So it's also important to divert food waste because it can produce nearly 300,000 tons of valuable compost every year. And we actually should stop calling it food waste, because compost, we can turn it into compost, which is a valuable soil amendment. It's known for promoting healthy plant growth and suppression of plant disease. It reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, which reduce the harmful impact of chemical fertilizers that you may hear about, how they run off into our rivers and lakes. Compost supplements and provides natural nutrients to the soil to maintain the healthy soil required to grow the healthy food that we all benefit from, and will contribute to the health of your own plants and gardens. So by composting, you're really completing the cycle by returning what you grow back to the soil to help you grow again. Compost also helps the soil maintain nutrients and moisture. So compost actually retains more water, so it actually conserves more water.
Mm.
It's also an effective way to sequester carbon by storing it in the soil instead of releasing it into the air. So we can also, another reason is that we can better protect environmental justice communities by reducing the amount of trash we send to these communities, which is where a lot of the incinerators are located, like the Covanta Energy Plant in Newark, New Jersey. This map here shows the area in blue, which is the west side of Manhattan, which actually transports its waste to the incinerator in the Ironbound district of Newark, New Jersey, where there have been decades of protests. I have some links to the articles below the map. And the plan contributes, this plant and other incinerators contribute environmental pollution and create significant health impacts. There are many studies that show high asthma rates and other health impacts like cancer for those that live near incinerators. So though, and these communities are typically the overburdened, underserved, low income minority communities of color. And another benefit is financial. So we could much more wisely spend the approximately $200 million a year that we as New York City taxpayers currently pay to export, burn, and bury our food scraps every year. And that cost is rising. It's going to skyrocket due to inflation, like everything else has gone up in price. But we can instead make compost and biogas and better use that $200 million to build the local infrastructure to process the food waste locally into compost, which would also create green jobs. So we just want to stress that there's a market for compost. You've seen it. It's sold in retail stores. It's sold to landscapers and others. Farmers actually call it black gold. And it's estimated that there's about 12 to 22 million in lost revenue from compost or natural gas that could be generated from our organic waste. And lastly, we can combat rats by removing the food that we feed to them, basically, in black plastic garbage bags set out on the curb. And I'm going to toss to Sharon, who's going to talk more about rats.
Rats, rats, rats.
Next slide, please. There we
Next
go.
slide. Rats in the news, guys. Speaking about the choice of cover photo from the October 24th New York Magazine, editor-in-chief David Haskell said, "The great overflowing of restaurants onto our sidewalks and streets has been perhaps the most unlikely legacy of the pandemic. It set the conditions for a nonstop feast for humans and rats alike. And we decided to make a cover that celebrated everyone's pleasure equally." So you see it. It's a great cover. Of course, we all know that the mayor recently changed the time at which trash can be set out on city sidewalks from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. This was done purportedly as a measure to reduce rat populations by moving the easily accessed food source to being available 3 hours later. But we, as the Solid Waste Advisory Board, feel this is just changing the time at which they will feast on our food waste, not make it unavailable. So we came up with this spoof on the famous Zagat Guide to New York City Eateries, which we call Zagrat, a guide to New York City restaurants, featuring Bag Bistro hours with all you can eat specials after 8 p.m. Next slide. Of course, as I said, rats regularly make the news and are a huge quality of life issue. Surprisingly, New York City households produce 8.4 pounds of food waste weekly, which is enough to feed 19 rats. How upset would you be if those came to dinner? The Department of Health has a rat portal that shows you the areas with the highest rat sightings, and rat complaints are reported from rat complaints reported to 311, which have skyrocketed and are up 71% from just 2020. And in fact, rat complaints are the top complaints received by New York City council members. Alarmingly, COVID and other harmful diseases have also been detected in rats. So we're asked, let's stop feeding them. We're very fortunate to have an alternative, our organics brown bin composting program that have latches that close, preventing easy access. And we wanted to point out that rodenticides that are frequently used, often illegally, aren't the answer either. They threaten New York City pet health, birds of prey, and our children. So let's make compost, not rat food.
Next slide, please. Okay. So what do we have here?
I'm not sure who was talking about it, but are we supposed to ask
Well,
you?
the question is, okay, I'm going to admit Sharon. And so there's an X over that picture because it's not a good thing. So
Right, these bins are not properly closed. They're overstuffed, and they, are an open invitation to problems. So I think one of the keys is to understand how these latches work on the different kinds of bins, and also, what to check for how to properly use these bins, because sometimes it will get overstuffed. I'm sorry, Joyce, I didn't mean to cut you
Hi,
off.
may I ask a question? This is Michal. What
Please.
kind of bag do you have in the bin? Is this obviously won't be a plastic bag, so what kind of bags do you use inside the bins?
So for the brown bin program, you can put plastic bags in the bins. They will accept plastic bags because they will separate them out. However,
Uh-huh.
that creates a lot of plastic contamination no matter what you do. And it would be better if you use paper bags or compostable bags if you could.
Can I
Or no bags.
add to that, please? Because our building told us not to use plastic, that you have to buy recyclable special bags that can compost themselves. Or I found those break easily. So I fill a bag, I dump the food in from the bag into the bin, and I throw out the bag because the plastic, they told us not to put it in with the food.
Yeah, there's a
Interesting.
misperception. There's definitely misperception about that, but we've confirmed with the Department of Sanitation, they
Yeah.
will accept plastic bags because they realize that by telling people they can't use them, that provides an obstacle for people
but
to
if-
not do it.
Yeah, but if your building is not allowing plastic bags, I think that's actually a good thing. I mean, unless it's really an inconvenience for everybody, but.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
see it's a little bit controversial, this question.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy these bags that compost themselves, but they often break.
Yeah, they're very thin. I got some bags that are mostly compostable and they make a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a challenge, but I think actually sanitation is saying don't force your buildings to not insert the plastic bags because people just won't do it.
Oh,
We want the process to be easy, as easy as possible, even though there are some measures that are better environmentally.
So,
Yeah.
so I
Right.
have a question for everyone on the call, if they want to just chime in a little bit, just quickly on this. I mean, are you finding the bins, for those of us who are using the bins, are they easy to use, difficult to use? Are they, in a convenient location? Does anyone have any?
I think Adele wanted to.
I've recently looked into this in my building, and the compostable bags in a multi-story, multi-family building, a large compostable bag, they are designed to deconstruct if they're wet. That's the whole beauty of them. But
Oh.
for the porter removing a bag with 5 pounds of food waste in it, of a 13-gallon brown bin, we have one on each floor. Or no, we have a small one, the 8-gallon bins. If he lifts that up, all the food waste is going to go all over the floor. So that
my
defeats the
goodness.
whole purpose.
Right.
So the Department of Sanitation recommends clear plastic bags.
Mhm.
Yes, it would be ideal if we all took our container and put it, and most of the people are doing that. They carry their container to the brown bin and dump it in. So we only have the one major plastic bag. We are fortunate that we have compactor rooms on each floor, like a trash room. So we can have a brown bin on each floor and not have to take it down to one central collection point. So
So
that
these are
that is a
small-
big deal.
These are the smaller bins, right? That you have. on
Right,
your-
it's a smaller bin, and we empty them now twice a week. We're kind of experimenting to see how often we have to empty them. Because
And how
people
is
work
the
from,
latch? How is the latch for the smaller bins? Because they are
Fine.
different from what you see.
it's the same on the large bin. It's the orange latch. And the bigger problem is that people forget to close the cover. So you have to close the cover and lock the latch. The latch doesn't always catch if there's a plastic bag in the way. And you may have to use 2 hands to manipulate all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
You don't want what we see in the picture.
So do you
right,
find?
oh, absolutely not. Right,
there-
you don't
there
want to
isn't-
overload it.
Right, there, we're hearing this a lot. Folks are like, we have to balance the opening of the lid with what we're holding in our hands. It's not exactly, it takes some thinking. It's not.
It also takes, and those of us who are kind of looking after the program, you have to, you have to refrain from calling everybody a name. Stop being so lazy. Put your container down on the floor, open the cover, put your compost in. You both my sister was complaining to me, and we had our typical sibling sister
That's cute.
back and forth, but I told her, stop it, just behave yourself. But but if you listen to people, they want a seamless maneuver, and you have to go along with that because you really want them to do that.
Look at what Sharon
Ooh.
said. Sharon, do you want to
Wonderful
report what you
idea.
said? Do you see that, Adele?
Yes, I love that idea. Okay, I got
What's
it.
the idea? I can't see it.
Okay, so hi, everyone. In my building, when compost came, we had a lobby training, and we had the compost can in the lobby. And as people came by, we showed them what to do, how to maneuver it, and then we had other stuff, which the Department of Sanitation gave us all these materials, including countertop containers that we were handing out to people. So then, okay, we started with 3 bins. We were early to the compost situation. Now we're up to 6 bins, but very frequently the bins are not locked.
Yeah.
They're held outside, they're kept outside, they're not locked.
That's what we do
So
here.
we made a little video just of hands with somebody talking. My husband is talking, he shows how to do it. And we put it on Building Link to remind.
Excellent
This
idea.
is what we're doing, otherwise the thing is open and the rats are there and the whoosie and the whatsy. So that's what we did.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
I know what building.
Sharon,
Thank you.
would you be willing to send us a link to the video or a copy of the video?
Who would I send it to?
If you can post it in the chat now, we can copy it out.
I can't, it will take me a while to find it because it's, but I'll send it later. I'll send it.
Okay, appreciate. You could send it because you're getting emails from me, so you can just send it back to that email.
Okay, we'll do.
From
Oh,
Joyce.
thank you so
Wonderful idea.
much. Thank you.
I'm going to do you one better. I think I'm going to have the elementary school kids make the video because they're the ones that really would do it, and that would be cute
Children
and
are
nice.
also
Yeah.
always helpful for spreading the word. I agree.
Right.
Okay, so can we have the next slide?
Yes.
Susan, I think you had a question. You were raising your hand.
Just wanted to clarify, in our building, the bin has a plastic bag, but they asked us individually not to put our plastic into the bag. That's what I meant.
And that's, I mean, I think if that's what the building wants to do and people can
Yeah.
accommodate, that's okay.
So that's all.
Excellent
I wanted-
point.
And just to clarify, the bins themselves should be lined with a clear plastic bag.
Yes, yes.
That's
There they
what-
are.
That's what they ask for, because otherwise the
Yeah.
bins are a mess.
Right.
This is just a picture of community drop-off sites. So some of you can use those perhaps as well as your brown bins. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so Matt already asked us a little bit about what's easy about diverting your food scraps. I think we talked about what's difficult. You can respond to these questions again in your chat if you haven't already participated. But also we're wondering, what are you including? Is it mostly scraps or mostly leftovers when you leave, when you divert food from your trash? If you can respond to those questions.
And also, how can we get more residents participating?
Well, exactly. We're gonna be looking at that in a second. Shall we move to that now as people respond to these questions? We can move to that. Go to the next slide.
I think we have several of our foot soldiers right in this class.
Yes, so we want more people to be diverting their food scraps. We can see that a lot of people aren't. And it's whether or not you have a brown bin, because if not, people can use the drop-off sites. So is there good enough signage in the building? And where should the signs go? Maybe some buildings need more than one language. Some buildings might have educational events in the lobby or elsewhere. And maybe you want to distribute sanitation literature. You can find a bunch of items on sanitation's website. And then the Department of Sanitation does provide free kitchen countertop containers to some of their eligible buildings. I think they're a little bit questionable, but we can talk about that. So we have a few ideas here. What other suggestions about getting more people to divert their food scraps? What are the other suggestions?
This is a beautiful poster. Do you put it anywhere in the building? Because I wasn't aware that, for example, the plant that is dead, I can put it also in the scraps.
Right. Because remember, organics is food and yard waste. So you definitely can put.
So this is a
every part
beautiful
of your
poster that
plan,
needs to be
right.
posted maybe in the laundry room to remind us.
Good
I mean,
idea.
I wasn't aware of all the tea bags as well. I wasn't aware.
Absolutely. Tea bags. Yeah. So I think it's really helpful to give people some detail about what they can do. We have another.
I'm noticing here that flowers, just like, a lot of people in New York City buy flowers at markets and bodegas and grocery stores. And I don't see like a dead bouquet.
Well, in the picture with that wasn't properly, clasped. There were flowers. There were dead flowers.
Right.
Some people know that. Yeah. I think I believe that you can just. I haven't looked recently, but if you go to the Department of Sanitation website, they do have a place for all kinds of signs that you can use. So take a look. And I guess color printers help, but even non-color are good for these signs. Any other thoughts on how we can get more people participating? Before we go to the next slide.
Maybe you could just say how little garbage is left when you're done. It's incredible.
I know.
Little garbage that actually goes down the chute. But a lot of people do not want to bother. They just want to have one garbage bag and that's it.
I know. So, but we were hoping that if people understood the tremendous value of diverting the food waste and the negative sides of not doing it, we're hoping that people will be convinced. So as we talk to you, please help us to share in this knowledge because, it's heavy stuff and we can make a big difference in many ways.
It's all about habits. Remember when they started recycling papers? Oh, now I mean, it's second. You don't have to think about it. You won't put paper in the garbage.
Right. So paper is good. Yes. Plastic is the problem, but that's a topic for another discussion. So we thought we would just.
Mary has her hand up as well, Joyce.
Oh, Mary. Yes, Mary.
Hi, I just wanted to let your listeners know that It's Easy Being Green is a neighborhood organization, and we work with buildings that are wanting to get composting, and we are a resource, and we do tablings for residents for buildings that are getting composting or to explain the program if a building wants. And we have several containers of the kitchen scrap that containers people can keep in their apartments to collect the food scraps in. So as long as they last, we can distribute them at our tablings. And if people contact It's Easy Being Green, we can work with people to try to get composting
that would
going.
be really helpful. We've been looking for the names of people who would like assistance. So can you put your information, your contact information, Mary, so that people can contact you for that assistance?
Yeah, It's Easy Being Green email in the
chat?
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Did
Well,
we have another hand raised?
Yes.
Sharon Wasco has put it in already.
Okay.
So can I just ask a question, Mary? What do you
Yes.
guys do? You come to the buildings and talk to people?
Yeah, Sometimes we speak to supers that are thinking of doing it and they have questions about it. So we problem solve with them. Where should they put the bins? And
Great.
we explain how the program works. Or sometimes, like once the building is signed up and the bins are delivered, we can set up a table in the lobby, and usually it's from 4 till 6. And as residents come home from work, they can ask any questions. And if we have the kitchen-sized containers, we can distribute those. And that really helps to have, I think, a successful program because the containers make it easy to compost.
Right.
And people want to do it. I think in my experience, without doing anything, about 1/3 of the people will compost. And after you have a tabling, maybe that number it's between half and maybe even 2/3,
Wow.
depending on the building. It
That's
doesn't
amazing.
patient because people have questions. They don't know how it works in their building, and it's a way they can get the answers they need.
So Mary, in fact, I'm sorry I came late, but this is exactly what I was going to suggest, because we made our building non-smoking and we couldn't get the votes for the longest time. And once we did tabling and talked to people face to face, because they didn't understand, they thought non-smoking means we want to catch people and put them in jail and they're going to be lawsuits. And that was not the whole point at all, right? So, and that once we did the tabling for about a week or so, or 2 weeks, suddenly we got all the votes. Because I think people, it's like selling anything face to face. I think even if they want to do it, there's a little bit of, I don't know how to do it, especially I feel with some of my neighbors who have been wanting to, I've talked to them about it. They're like, one more thing to do, So I really love this tabling thing. And we just email you and I'll talk to my board and then they will, how does that work?
Yeah, you can just arrange, if your board gives the okay, then you and I would come up with a time that works for both of us to do the tabling. And we would just set up, I would bring, I have materials from the Department of Sanitation about the program. I can bring them and distribute them, and people can get, there's one brochure that has a list of what you can put in the bins and what you can't put in the bins.
Right.
And we can usually use one of your bins to show them how to latch it, like Sharon mentioned before.
Right, that's important. Right.
Not rocket science, but people just have to be aware that they have to check after they close the bin that it's really locked.
And Mary, do you do any follow-up after you've done the initial contact? Do you go back and check or read?
Usually after the tabling, I don't go back, but often I'm involved. Like if people reach out to our organization and say, I'm thinking of getting, I usually send out an email explaining how the process works. People don't realize that after you're supposed to request the bins when you sign up, and that the Department of Sanitation used to provide bins whenever you needed them, but they no longer do. This changed this fall. And that they can request up to 10 bins, up to 1 bin per 10 units in the building. So when they sign up, they should request as many bins as they can, because the department no longer replaces them if they're damaged or lost.
Okay, so you're talking about the brown bins?
The brown bins. And
Yeah.
it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for the brown bins to be dropped off.
We have to be on top of that.
Yes. So
Okay,
if,
okay, Mary, if we can continue.
I answer it, but I don't want to take too much of your time, but
No,
say if-
thank you. But I think you told us how to contact you, and your program is fantastic. So we want to be in touch.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to include another picture of what's allowed. And this is for the brown bin program. And in the picture, you can see meat, bones, dairy, fruit, vegetable scraps, paper, tea bags, coffee filters, grinds, leaves, and yard waste. Because remember, organics is both the food and the yard waste. and it could include, soil from plants. We don't want to include oil. That's not good. And for the brown bins, we can include plastic bags, even though, as Matt says, it's not the best thing environmentally. Some fruits and vegetables do have stickers or rubber bands or twisties. We don't want those. We certainly don't want pet waste or pet food. And I want to add that what we're looking at here is what is allowed for the brown bins, but not for the drop-off sites where meat, bones, and dairy, and also the plastic bags are not allowed. And no diapers or human waste. Yes, Adele.
Or pet waste, for that matter.
Well, no
Yeah,
pet
yeah.
waste, right,
No pet
right.
waste.
Was there another hand raised? Mary, you raised your hand? Did you want to add to this, Mary? Where's Mary? Two participants raised hand.
Well, I raised it because sorry. There's confusion in my building about the plastic bags. And it's very annoying to see so many plastic bags in there.
You
Yeah.
can leave them. You can include the plastic bag. If that's
But they must be
what
clean.
makes it easier.
But it shouldn't be encouraged. I
No,
feel
it
like
shouldn't.
it's almost encouraged.
No, it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah,
agree.
and I feel like it's, especially since there's a garbage bag, a can right next to the compost can, just
Mhm.
take out the plastic, dump it in and throw the plastic bag in the garbage. I
It-
just feel like the message is very confusing.
I think you
And
have,
it's been confusing as we're discussing it here as well. And in fact, I think Matt and I are disagreeing, even though I hate plastic.
I think you have to first get people used to dealing with their garbage. I think you have to get them over that psychological hurdle. And if they have to wrap it in a plastic bag, let it be until they are not so totally offended by taking care of their own garbage. That's what a lot of it is. They feel that they have paid somebody else to throw away their stuff and they don't want to touch it.
I'll make a suggestion here. I like the idea of lining the bin with a unifying plastic bag, and then asking the residents to take your food waste, throw it in the freezer until the night before it's being collected. You put it into a paper shopping bag that you've gotten from the grocery stores, you've gone shopping, and you take that to the compost
Okay.
bin. And so the paper will also disintegrate.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, we can be creative about different things. I mean, I, for one, don't use my freezer, but a lot of my friends do. So, so can we go, there are 3 people who raised hands. So if you haven't spoken yet, please speak up. Or maybe you haven't put your hand down.
Yeah, or put your hands.
Yeah, it's helpful to put your hand down so we know, because it's not telling me. Okay, but there's a question from Miriam. Can frozen scraps go directly? Yeah, they can be frozen.
Guaranteed they will unfreeze by the time they get to their destination.
It's
Yeah, no
actually better.
problem.
It's actually better in some ways to freeze them.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so any questions based on what we've been talking about? And Mary, do you have a question?
No, I have a question.
Oh, your hand is still up. If you could lower it.
Oh,
then.
I'm sorry. Oh, so sorry.
I know,
Um,
it's difficult. I agree. So maybe we can go to the next slide. I thought that was a good conversation, just to show you possible containers. So I'm a maven for the metal container with holes on the top, and I use a mostly compostable bag to contain my food waste. And I have not experienced fruit flies, I think because of the holes. This particular container is available on the web for less than 30, as is the plastic one you see, which may be somewhat similar to what sanitation provides, but I think it encourages fruit flies unless you, keep it in the refrigerator. Of course, there's always the option of using any container and then leaving it in your fridge or freezer. You can see that's the option on the right So these are different ways of containing our food waste. But let's go to the next slide, because can you show your examples? What do you use for your food waste? Is that you have things handy to share with us?
And in the meantime, I will also share that I found out just this afternoon in Park Slope, actually, that Big Reuse this Saturday is giving away countertop compost bins.
But we don't know what they're like. That's the only
Yes,
problem.
I
This is,
don't know what they're like.
I know
So
that
the
not all
compost-
countertop containers are equally good. I didn't see, Allison, you want to show
Yeah.
you?
Yes,
the
so I'm
huge
showing,
container.
this is one sample of a container from
My container to send it.
So you can kind of see how it has a lid. This is the decal that we saw earlier in the presentation. I personally use, this is just a plastic bucket. I actually found this in the plastic recycle bin. It's probably a gallon bucket. It has a lid. I have a smaller, just little buckets like this, half the size maybe. And I just put them in my refrigerator. And I don't line them with plastic bags. I just take this to the brown bin and I dump it in the bin. Or I would take this to the food scrap drop off and put it right in the bin, because all of this stuff is machine washable, or you can just rinse it out, by hand. You're not going to be putting edible food in these kind of containers. So there's really no need to use a plastic bag, but you can.
Okay, any other examples?
Sharon, you had mentioned in the chat that IEBG gave out free countertop bins.
Is it like what?
Yeah,
Allison was
well,
showing?
we, through Mary's connection with the department, Mary is in It's Easy Being Green, as you probably concluded, and she had made a connection with someone, and she came and did the tabletop sessions, and then she delivered a huge number of these to us, and they are sitting in various members of my group's apartments. And at a fair, a block fair that we had, I gave out everything that I had in my apartment, and there still are more. But I think Mary would know more because she's the contact person. So Mary, do they still have them? I think it's what you described are being given out in Park Slope. I think it's the same.
Yeah, and I could just say they do.
Yeah, it's-
My building is actually just starting composting, and they're providing free bins. They'll provide usually provide a good quantity of bins.
So those are probably the ones that we need to keep in the refrigerator or freezer because of fruit flies.
Could I? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, those, the bins from the city, I took a picture of mine, but I can't seem to get it in the chat to show you what it looks like. It has a lid which is attached and which can stay open, or it's hinged and you can just slam it down. So you really can, it's very easy to keep it closed when you're not using it. And I've never had a problem with fruit flies, and I keep it out on my counter. I mean, I fill it fairly regularly, so I empty it fairly regularly, but I don't think you have to be overly concerned about the fruit
Well,
flies with
how
them.
often do you empty it?
Every couple, 2 or 3 days.
Okay,
3
so
days
that
at the
should
most,
be
but in the
good.
summer it's a couple.
2 or 3 days will protect you from fruit flies. The metal container can resist fruit flies for maybe up to a week. So it's better, but if you're ready to drop it off more frequently, then that's a good thing.
It's what Allison is holding up is what the container is.
Right.
And again, I've never experienced fruit flies. And if I haven't had a chance to go down, I line it with a so-called compostable bag, put it in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to go.
Freezer is excellent. That's right.
That's the freezer is the answer to fruit flies should you
Absolutely.
experience them.
Yeah.
But in the interim, a day or two, I've never had fruit flies, but
Agreed. Yeah, in a day or
I'm
two.
sure
it's
they
fine.
exist. Yeah.
It's fine a day or two. So Sharon has a recipe here about making stock from, extra scraps. Sharon, you want to talk a little about it?
Sure. In many commercial kitchens where there's a lot of food prep, the food waste or the food scraps really don't get wasted. As you're prepping vegetables and even meats, there'll usually be a pot or two on the back burners that are constantly going all day, and they make absolutely amazing stock for soups. So if you do that, whenever you're prepping, especially if you're prepping for some larger event, but whenever you're prepping, you can put your food scraps, especially like onion skins and celery bits and the ends of things that you cut off, peels, all that kind of stuff, and you put it in your stock pot, or you put it in the stock pot, keep it boiling for a couple of hours. You start to build a really great soup stock. Even if you don't do it every day, you can always take the stock, put it in the fridge, take this food scrap, put those in the freezer, and compost them later.
That sounds great. I think Michal has her hand up. Michal, do you
Yes.
want to? Yeah.
My question is about smell, not the flies, the smell. Did
I
you
don't
have
get a
any-
smell. I don't get a smell with the metal container.
The
I
other,
Not the plastic.
the other thing about composting, if you're doing an actual compost bin in a yard, is you need to mix your greens and your browns, it's called.
Okay, but
The
then we're not
green-
really getting to that. I think we're talking about what we have in the kitchen.
I know, but you can
So
easily
I'm
put a
wondering if the plastic containers produce smells, or maybe they have to be kept in the freezer to mitigate against that possibility.
Or the refrigerator.
Yeah,
And-
I'm
And
wondering.
again, there's nothing stopping you from doing some vegetable peels and then a dirty napkin.
Well,
Or-
yeah,
You can do your browns. It's just paper. It can be food soiled paper. It could be a part of a pizza.
Right.
so smells can sometimes pop up when you don't have enough oxygen circulating around the material. So one of the, I don't know what kind of, are you using a plastic bag or using a
No,
container?
usually scraps of meat, if it's a summer, the meat smells.
Yeah, so the idea is, you know what you should do is keep the meat. If you're gonna put meat in the bag, especially in the summer, it really should just go in the refrigerator until you're ready to.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Yeah,
so.
it's a
I think,
must, I would
was
say.
there a suggestion to just freeze to
And
prevent
freeze or
smell?
freeze.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything that's meat, protein type leftovers, I would say to freeze them. Of course, I would say first you put them in that stock pot, you get all the flavor that is possible, and then you throw the leftover bones in
Great.
the.
Susan, what's your question?
I just wanted to share that I don't really have room in my freezer because we have a tiny one. So we just throw out the scraps every 1 or 2 days. We
Okay,
have the
sometimes we have to
brown
put it in
bins and I just make sure we throw it out because it does smell by the end of 2 days.
Throw it out as in put it into your compost bins. on the
Yeah,
outside.
every day or
Right,
every other day.
Right. Yeah, I don't have smells from my metal container, but then again, I don't have a lot of meat. I don't eat a lot of meat. So.
But I meant just when you open it, we usually have mostly vegetables, hardly ever meat.
Really,
Just opening it.
smells.
The
Yeah.
vegetables
Right.
smell after.
Put a
you-
little layer of
Okay.
newspaper or paper towel on top.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah, yeah.
The browns decompose from the decomposition of the greens and help control the odor.
The
Okay,
what helps?
I apologize, Sharon. I thought you were getting to the larger composting. Yes, browns and greens is something that we.
So Sharon's using the term browns. Browns can be newspaper or dried leaves or
It's a
ripped up paper-
cardboard,
piece of cardboard, ripped up paper
Could be a
bag.
pizza box.
napkins.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Right.
okay to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know you could put cardboard in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably have
especially
to,
this.
depending on the size of your container, you probably have to break it. Can we go to the next slide?
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So let's see if we can get to the CNN video. Matt, can you do that?
All right, I'm going to try this. If
How to
I
keep it fresh.
blow this all up, please forgive me.
Um,
Now, can you all see this?
There.
No, it's not
Oh,
this one.
That's the other,
But you
It's
can
not
see it.
this one. Yeah, we can see it, but it's not
the
this
dinner
one.
party calculator, not the,
Yeah, where's
Okay,
the-
so you have to go to the notes.
hold on.
Yeah.
What slide number is this, Joyce?
Don't know. Keep going. There, go to the notes for this one.
Okay, I can't do that.
I'm trying to find it. Oh, here, I got it. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you?
I'm-
hold on.
I'm copying it and I'll post it in the chat and.
Okay, in the chat.
And this,
Okay.
hold on, everyone. Okay, there, go.
Okay, here's the CNN
It's in the
thingy.
chat.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's
I
that.
got it. I just hit it. There we go. It's gonna go on in a second.
Yeah, but you have to share your screen.
Oh,
So if you're not
okay.
sharing your screen, no one can see.
I was able to see it. What about?
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's because but you're not screen sharing, so let Matt do it.
let me do it.
Okay, thank you.
Just stay with me, guys.
Right. This is a good video. Can everybody see this?
Not yet.
Hold on,
Okay.
just setting it up.
A theme in his life is that Rudy's got to be the star.
You need to screen share.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to
Okay.
pause it. So I got a lot of things going on the computer here. So
Okay.
To America's Made, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Thanks for coming, Mary.
The heart of our homes
Can you
and
see it,
fortress
Sharon?
for our fresh
No,
food.
not yet.
Taking
Yeah.
pride of place,
Here we go.
gleaming apples and bananas might look
Joyce,
safe.
I think you're running it. Can you turn it
But
off?
when you open the fridge or
Turn it
cupboard a
off?
few days
Are you
later,
running it on your
find your once
laptop?
fresh
or your
Turn it
computer?
off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that Matt can control it.
Okay, control it, Matt. Yeah, we want to be able to share the screen.
I think they were there. Oh, maybe not.
You still can't see it?
I can see Apple.
We can see it, but we can't hear it.
Well, it's not,
I
it's
think
not
this is not the right video yet. It's a,
No, it
Oh,
is.
it is, it is.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
never mind.
But let's play it if you can see it.
ingredients in a very different condition.
Everybody see that?
And this often comes down to how you put them away in the first place.
A lot of food is wasted. People buy in bulk and then end up not eating it.
So much food, in fact, that if food loss and waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. To keep food for longer and help the planet and your household budget in the process, there are a few things to keep in mind.
One is time. So obviously the longer you keep something, it will eventually go bad. Oxygen, there's a lot of reactions that happen if you've heard of oxidation that kind of causes apples to go brown, for example, when you cut them.
Uh-oh.
Where'd the volume go?
Sound went away. Someone muted it.
Can't
looks
hear
like.
anymore.
Muted.
We can't hear it. Can anybody hear?
Matt,
I can't hear it. I don't know.
I wonder if we should.
I
put a
think they were
muted-
trying to regulate the volume and they ended up muting it.
well,
You can't hear it?
Oh,
no,
Uh, It's, this is as high as it goes.
well, something happened that it stopped.
I
So-
paused it.
Roll it back a little bit.
We could hear it and then it stopped.
Okay, let's do a sound check and let's listen now. And if anyone says that you can't hear it, just raise your hand.
Can't hear it.
Cannot hear.
Okay. I don't
I
know.
think minimize it. And it was small, minimize the screen.
Okay.
That's not it.
Maybe
I don't know if
when
this is,
it-
I don't know if this is gonna work.
Try now. Nope.
Can you hear it, Matt?
He has his headphones on. I think it's something to do with your, it's something to do with your earpods that you have on.
Is it working or no?
No,
Cannot hear it.
Maybe we should just put a link to it in the
Yeah,
chat.
let's just put a
oh,
link.
I did. The link to it is in the chat because I put it in there. I mean, if you want to give me screen control, I can try and play it from mine, but
I can try it. It says I can screen share here.
Okay.
No, host is disabled.
Who's speaking?
Manveen,
Yeah, hi.
our guests. Host disabled screen sharing. So Joyce,
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. What?
if can you enable screen sharing at least for me, and I'll try
Okay.
playing this from mine.
But I have to get out of here because I can't do
Here,
anything
I'll-
now.
I'll Sharon here. You can just-
Are you giving it to me? Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know why.
So
Because we were able to hear
now,
that, but I don't know why we can't hear the.
Yeah, sometimes this doesn't work right on.
hold on.
If it doesn't work, we'll just move on.
Okay.
Hold on. No, I'm
Does everybody see the picture?
Yes.
why is it not doing
Just
anything?
click on the image. Or
I
just
am.
Right click on it and it should go.
You can find your once fresh ingredients
See this now?
Could people hear that?
Yes.
That's Joyce's computer, yeah. Let's see if,
I don't know
Okay.
which computer that is.
People, you said you could hear that.
yeah, that's.
Yeah, but now we can't because you're talking.
Okay.
very different condition. And this often comes down to how you put them away in the first place.
A lot of food is wasted.
The
People
computer and the
buy
video are not the same.
and then end
Yeah,
up
they're
not
not the
eating
same.
it.
So much
So
food
the video is playing in
is
someone else's and the
lots of waste
computer is
for a
playing in
country.
someone.
Correct.
It would be the
Right.
third.
So Sharon, you have to start the video.
Well, Joyce did, so I stopped screen
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah, I know, but the
And
problem
help
is
the planet.
she's
and
got
your
video, she's got the
process.
audio.
There
and
are
you've
a
got the
few
video.
things to keep in mind.
Well,
One is time. So obviously, the longer you keep something, it will
Can't
eventually.
see anything.
Oxygen.
I'm not controlling anything anymore right now.
Oxidation,
Where's
that
the sound coming
chemicals
from?
To go brown.
Okay, so it looks as if there's still
Yeah, this is not working.
dissatisfaction and we should get out of here.
Yeah, bad
Agree?
bad customer feedback. Let's go.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do this. So can we get out of this video?
We're decomposting as we sit here.
Yeah. Let's get out. This is an unfortunate occurrence,
These
but
things
it
happen.
happens. Yeah. I can't.
I'm going back to multiple participants can share. So I guess that's up to you and
Well, okay, but let's go back to our PowerPoint
Presentation,
slide.
right.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna do
because
that
we
now.
have some more. How about this?
sorry about that technical difficulty, folks.
All right, so here you go.
Okay, I
worries.
just
We're
started loading something.
There you go. This is where we left off.
Okay, so let's move to the next one. I have the ability to do it. So tips to reduce food waste. So I think Sharon had shown the URL for the CNN video there. But obviously you want to plan ahead and buy what you need. The video says is kind of questioning whether we want to buy in bulk. But I think we can. I mean, sometimes we save money, but we have to be wise about it. You know, maybe we won't be able to eat all the fruits and vegetables, but with the the meat and the poultry and the fish, maybe we can just put them in separate containers for separate eatings. So buying in bulk has some challenges, but we can save. You want to shop with a list, and which should be based on careful planning of your meals. There's something called a guesstimator for party planning. I think just somebody may want to put that on the chat. And in any case, leftovers, you want to use your freezer. In my case, I usually make food for more than one meal. The second day, it's still good. By the third day, I usually freeze it. And then if you have wilted brown or imperfect produce, you can always do smoothies, sauces, or as we discussed, soup stocks.
You know,
And-
you're on the wrong slide, just so you know. You're on,
What?
you're showing slide 20 and talking about slide 19, just so you know.
Oh, I don't. What happened? No, so we want to go to slide 19. No?
Oh. Slide 19 is more kitchen tips to reduce food waste and has the
Well,
guest.
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Is that okay? Okay, don't be misled by the Best Buy date.
There.
Okay,
No, go back right there.
we're okay?
Yes, now you're in the correct slide.
Okay.
So Joyce, I'm showing the slide, so you just tell me to advance. okay?
Oh, okay, we should be in slide 19.
So this should be it.
Yes.
Slide 19. You want to discard soft and flaky cheeses that show molds, but you don't always have to follow the Best Buy date. So you can keep certain foods longer than what it says. And after you've done all you can do to reduce waste in the kitchen, it's time to divert the rest for composting. So let's have the next slide, please. I don't see it.
Food storage tips, it's up.
No, I don't see it. Why
It's
is-
the screen share.
Okay,
Joyce, stop sharing your screen.
oh.
That's why.
And
I
then open
can't,
Zoom.
Yeah, go to the Zoom.
okay. All right. Food storage tips, right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so the video that we didn't see does talk about ethylene producers and ethylene sensitive. Ethylene is just a chemical that can either increase the ripening of fruit or decrease it, the producers and the sensitive kinds of fruits and vegetables. And I would suggest that you can try this particular site that we have here to learn which foods are producers and which are sensitive. An example of this issue is that if you have an avocado that you want to ripen more quickly, you can always put it in a bag with a producer such as bananas or apples.
A paper bag.
Yes, a paper bag, not a plastic.
Right.
So it's best to store the sensitive away from the ethylene producers unless you want to quicken ripening. And then that picture is supposed to be a picture of pears with fruit flies, and we've been discussing back and forth about them. Essentially, after 48 hours, you probably don't want to keep fruits or fruit scraps on your countertop, but you can freeze them. And again, I think that some of us have experienced containers that are okay for the scraps. In the winter, you can leave out the fruits and the scraps for longer periods of time. We can go to the next slide.
Matt,
We ready for the next slide?
did Matt walk away? Matt.
He advanced.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So we've been talking about what we do in our kitchen, but there's food everywhere, served everywhere. And maybe we can help to reduce waste and enlarge the composting pile with foods that are served at restaurants, cafes, supermarkets, grocery stores, schools, and any other establishment. So we're going to be looking at that. If we can move to the next slide. Okay, and so what about food waste on a large scale? It's a huge problem. It accounts for the fact that 30 to 40% of the food supply is wasted. We're talking about billions of pounds and billions of dollars lost. We also have the fact that safe and wholesome food that we might be throwing away can be used to deal with food insecurity. And if we have less food waste, We'll have money saved for businesses, households, and farmers. And of course, there's a lot involved in the production of food, such as land, water, labor, energy. And there's the producing, processing, transporting, preparing, storing of food, that if we waste, we're losing those as well. And then, of course, there's the cost of disposing the discarded food, which we talked about earlier. Can we go to the next slide? So just a little about food insecurity, but it's not a little problem. It means that there's a household that is not getting the food to enable them to live an active, healthy life. And it's a huge problem for our city. 1 in 3 of our members of our city are food insecure. Manhattan has one of the highest rates of food insecurity in the country. And since the start of the COVID pandemic, the problem has only increased by 50%. Next slide, please. We have next slide, please. So we have some resources for leftovers that we can get involved with. For example, the Too Good To Go app, with, where we can, restaurants will offer leftover foods at a reduced price that we can bid for. We don't know what they are, but that's an app that you can have on your phone, where you can get their food that they wouldn't be selling otherwise. And there's also community fridges, and there's one near Park West Village. Anyone know where it is? Okay, it's actually by Douglas Houses. And then there's these 2 other organizations that are dealing with leftover foods to address the needs of the food insecure. Do you have suggestions for other places that are going to be helpful for dealing with foods that are leftover? Any suggestions? You can put them in the chat. Okay, can we go to the next slide? And we can consider leftovers as a social event, create a party based on leftovers where we're all sharing what we have. And then there's another way of thinking about leftovers. Can we go to that slide? We can all get together in our community and decide that we're going to take our leftovers to nearby community fridges, shelves, and pantries. And there's a website that lists the community fridges. And as I mentioned, there's one very close to Park West Village. Can we go to the next slide? And all right, we can quickly take the food waste quiz. Matt, can you take us there? Okay, I guess we're not going to do that. We have some questions that Allison's going to take you through.
Yeah, yes, we've come to the end. Really appreciate all the great questions and the interactive discussion. But are there any additional questions that you have on what we've discussed? Is there any additional information or materials do you need? Do you have other building friends you can talk to get them participating in composting, convince them to do it for all the reasons we discussed? We have a lot of resources on the Manhattan Swabs Organics Committee page, which is a committee that meets every month. We actually meet on Monday, and all meetings open to the public, and we always encourage and are looking for new people to join us. And I think everybody on this call are kind of like-minded, so we'd love to see you at either our meeting, Organics Committee, or the monthly Manhattan Swab meeting. We also have the mandatory citywide to help us advocate to get that bill passed. So we need your help if you'd like to help with that. Love to hear from you, or put your email in the chat, and we'll definitely follow up with you. We'll also be sending a survey asking you for feedback, any feedback that you have. So look out for that, and please send it back. But feel free just to raise your hand or just put any additional questions in the chat.
I posted in the chat the link for the previous slides quiz, as well as the organic committee link and the mandatory citywide curbside composting legislative bill link.
Great, great. Manveen, did you have a question?
Yeah, hi. So I have friends and neighbors around here. They're all these rental buildings, they're rental only buildings. And they don't seem to have composting. Now, who's going to be motivated in those buildings to get the bins to be deployed?
Are you in community district 7?
This is near Park West Village. It's
Okay,
not my particular building. My particular building has had bins for a long time.
right, I
since before
understand.
COVID.
You can,
So-
do you know someone that lives in that building?
Yes, but they themselves are not too motivated because they're renters. I mean, that's the problem.
No,
Well,
that
those
shouldn't
people
make a
don't care.
difference. That shouldn't
Yeah,
make
but
a
they don't care. They don't care. They are who they are.
Well, ideally, it'd be great to find somebody who is interested, and that we can put a link in the chat, but that, you can, individuals can enroll.
No, but they're renters and it's a rental only building.
No, I don't want to stigmatize renters. I'm a renter.
No,
So,
but what I mean is that the turnover is high in that building.
well, okay, that could be a
And-
different
Yeah, and
consideration.
there's no one who's really permanently there. You can see
The
there's a
man-
high turnover building.
It understood. Well, we understand what you're saying. And we still would like to try and encourage management as well as renters, no matter how long they're here. There's maybe some of those renters may come from cities and countries that already do composting. And so maybe they're having the opportunity to do it, they would participate. But you have to get management on board.
I'm asking because I want that building to become, but I don't know how to make it. I don't live there. And the person I do know is least interested. So I'm wondering, is there a program for buildings like this?
Well, maybe the tabling would work for them to let people know, and let's see how many residents are interested and would sign up. And
I mean, I'm not even talking about a particular specific, even though I have the building in mind, I'm thinking there are many buildings like this in Manhattan.
agree.
that there's no one really, like, who's going to do it? Maybe the agency that does the renting. Maybe one should go speak to them and they would then I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking of it as a larger scale. I'm not really obsessed with that one particular building, though we can start with that building, like you said, the tabling.
Things will change when that legislation passes, because they'll have to. Until then, in District 6 and 7 in Manhattan, we can encourage the buildings and the management and the people, the porters that manage the trash and the recycling to participate, to make space for the bins, to get them signed up with sanitation to receive bins, and then to educate and engage the residents.
So this,
You can work in both directions. You can approach management, and you can approach residents to bug the management, or management.
You
tell the
can
residents.
also approach on a larger scale, as Manveen is getting at, is we approach the union, 32BJ, and to begin to educate the young porters and the superintendents coming up of how this helps their job. It makes their job ultimately easier, and it reduces the rat problem. I think in New York City, the way to everybody's heart is through this rat problem. And as it becomes mandatory, it will eventually become mandatory. That's, it's this year and next year, yet in the long run, we are going to be the people who are going to go around talking to all the buildings and modeling it for them.
so my question is it mandatory anywhere at this point?
Not yet. Not in New York City yet.
And,
But if you read this
every
article
week, you
in
wanna see it.
Captain,
Except if you, in Queens, I don't know if you've heard about the program in Queens, they provided brown bins to every residence in Queens. So even though it's voluntary, everybody that in Queens is able to
and
compost.
it's been hugely successful. There was an article in the Gothamist just this afternoon, and I posted the link, and it is hugely successful, though it sounds like it's on hiatus while they evaluate it. So,
Right. It's gonna come back again. It has to do
Yeah.
with yard waste availability.
And snow removal.
Right, right. Yeah, of course. But eventually if you read everything, that's where it's going, and people will.
And just to clarify, every residence in Queens did not receive a brown bin, but they were permitted to put their organic material out in other containers.
But
Right.
it still
Correct.
require the willingness of management to participate. And I know of buildings in Queens where management wasn't interested. They
Right.
don't have access to the service, whether it's whose ever been it is.
Right,
So
right.
that's why we need mandatory, because we
Right.
we shouldn't have to rely on, the preferences of management.
And that's why we also need an army of like-minded citizens like yourselves.
Right.
Yes,
to
thank
help
you.
our-
I love what I'm hearing. I love.
Oh, yeah, right. It will, I'm amazed at how people have, in my building, are so enthusiastic. They'll say, look, they're carrying their tea bag down to the
love it.
compactor room.
Yeah.
And they are just thrilled with their good behavior,
know.
I feel like I have to hand out gold stars and.
Right.
Well, ma-
But Adele, you remind me of a friend. I do want to say that this friend is doing training of 32 BJ
Oh, good.
members.
That's
So
it. Yeah.
this is something that she's definitely doing.
Right.
Maybe we,
Can I ask a question?
And
sure.
So here, this is one thing that bothers me a lot because it's happening a lot right now. All those Christmas trees out there. It seems like they're going into the garbage.
there's a pickup program,
No,
That
they're
is
mulching them. They're mulching them.
Mulch Fest.
Right, they're gonna pick them up. I think it's tomorrow they start to pick up, maybe after January 6th, because you see, tomorrow's Three Kings Day. So
They
people
do
make-
mulch them? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
they
so
can
you're
either-
happy to
What
hear
about
that,
the-
right?
What about the
Lindsay?
yard waste? Because I was told by the potters in my building, the yard waste is picked up and goes with the garbage.
It can go in the compost. You just need, and I happen to have purchased.
They don't do it. They don't do it.
Because they don't know. And if you
Right.
show them, I happen to have purchased very large brown paper bags, 30 gallons. And from Ace Hardware, they weren't too expensive. We thought we could use them, but we decided not to. And you put your leaves in there and your yard waste. And, it's a gentle process. You can't hit the porter over the head. Just have to be very gentle and explain how it works.
Okay,
think-
so
I
look,
think
there's a link in the website that Allison just put in to get you connected to that mulching program. So,
That's
please
mulch
check it
fest.
out.
Yeah.
Check it out. That was helpful.
Yeah.
I
Good
hope they do it.
researchers here.
It's in the chat.
Yeah. it's in the
Frankly
chat.
speaking, it just bothers me, this Christmas trees, because you
Oh.
grow a tree, you kill it, and then it just goes in like.
No,
why?
you're right. You're right. I
This
know
bothers
Allison
me.
doesn't
I
like the
know I'm
pumpkin.
unreligious, but it bothers
Yeah.
me.
You may want to join us on a regular basis.
I'm
We-
very like, why are you killing those trees? Why? Are they nice
I think
trees?
we have one more slide though. Can we get to the last slide? What happened to our slides?
But I think even with the yard waste mulching, I think the tabling will help. I think that's what I'm
Yes.
going to do in my building.
Okay, yes, and Susan's group, I think, was behind a lot of that. But I think we lost our slides. Allison, do you want to talk through those slides, or did you already do the
Matt,
rest?
advance to the next slide, Matt.
No, I mean, I pretty much did. It was just basically how to get in touch with us, how to find our website, manhattanswab.org.
Okay,
Our contact information was on there if you have questions.
okay,
And then
Why-
we also not only, I chair the organics committee, we have monthly meetings, but we also have the monthly full Manhattan Swab board meeting, which is the second Wednesday of the month, which is actually next week, all open to the public, and very much would love for you to join. So
okay. So let's repeat the website though.
Hold
It's
on.
put a link in the chat.
manhattanswab.org.
I can put a link in the
Are you-
chat and we can send it out to you.
Yeah,
for-
it'll be an opportunity for more such stimulating discussions. I
Yeah.
learned so much.
Got the swab one done.
Yeah,
I think a follow-up email, if they could have all these things, would be useful.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay.
And,
So,
and we're going to recruit you to our ranks. just so you know.
Where do you meet? You meet by Zoom or in a
Yeah,
physical location?
lately we've been Zooming. Pre-pandemic, we had very nice get-togethers. And we
Yeah.
still do get-togethers. We do tours of interesting sites. We're going to be having a
Ooh.
tour of some sites in Staten Island.
Oh, will you take us to one of the
Recycling plant?
recycling plants or even a landfill? We could bring back wonderful photos for our neighbors.
Okay,
do,
good ideas.
I don't know if any of the landfills are open in New York City. I think
Probably not. I've been to landfills outside of New York City.
We
There's
can
not
always
much
go
see.
we can always go to the Convanta incinerator and record the well, there's actually a great video about what those people are experiencing. It's very moving. I don't know if we put that up in the chat.
No.
Yeah, there may be virtual tours of the Sims plant, which recycles
Yes.
metal, paper, and glass, and maybe
Metal
even
glass.
has a virtual
Metal
tour.
glass plastic, yes. Sims is fascinating. I don't, have they reopened to tours?
No, but there may be a virtual tour.
There
on
definitely is.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
the Sanitation Foundation has such a tour that I saw for their class. Are we okay? Are we ready to say goodbye? This is a
Okay.
wonderful group.
Had something more to say or ask.
What time is
Oh.
your monthly meeting?
So it's 6 p.m., second Wednesday,
Yeah.
and you'll find a link on our website.
Okay.
Go
I-
into events and you'll see it.
I had put in the chat the link to the swab, the Manhattan
Yeah,
swab,
I see.
as
Okay.
well as emails for Allison and Joyce.
Okay, but why don't you say what your role in the swab is, Sharon?
I'm the head of the Textile Waste Committee. I'm the chair of the Textile Waste Committee so I'm all about textiles and apparel.
Begins with you. Defend the natural world you love by donating to the Nature Conservancy. And this critical
Who's listening to a Nature Conservancy commercial?
Okay, I think, are we ready to say goodbye? Anything else?
Feel free to reach out. I'm gonna put my
Thank you.
email in here just in case you'd like it.
Yeah, do you
Okay,
accept used clothes? Do you accept
um,
used clothes at the textile recycling?
I'm planning to have some of those types of events. So
But-
I'll be
wait.
happy to communicate that with when.
Okay, but on
Okay.
our website, we have a data set of where to send everything that we
Oh.
need to discard.
Really?
Yes,
Give
it's
a lot of information.
amazing. And yes. And I just discovered a great source for textiles. I think it was a new
Oh.
edition. What is that called, Allison? Allison put it together.
Are you talking about the donate, reuse, repair database?
Yes, look for the donate, reuse, repair. It tells you everything and
Oh,
where you can send it.
It tells you a lot of things. There are some more that I have to contribute to that as well.
Yes, please do, because I noticed something new that's really useful, because I have an old down quilt and
Oh.
I found a place to leave it.
Oh.
I found a place to put my board games, so it's great.
If I could just add quickly that you can, there's that textile recycling program. You can enroll it's another free program from the city. You can enroll in that in your building and you'll get a bin that you can put in your basement.
Oh, that's right,
Wow.
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
So I see this Mr. Stan Chen here from Recycle Go. What is that about?
Dan?
You're up,
All right,
Stan.
yeah, that was, I forgot to take that title off. I left that by accident. I'm the head of RecycleGo, which is actually a recycling blockchain platform, actually, and also a carbon accounting platform, but that's kind of day job number one, that's all.
But I think you also have a recycling facility in New Jersey, right?
Yes, I do. I also, day job number two is actually a recycling facility in New Jersey as well.
And as well, you're working with our swab, so that we're all volunteers, by the way.
And what does your recycling facility in New Jersey process?
We process actually non-ferrous metals, cardboards, papers, and plastics.
Good luck with the plastics.
No textiles.
No textiles, I'm afraid. Basically, a lot of the textile waste is actually pre-packed. It's pretty much packaged and exported. In terms of a lot of the textiles, in terms of recycling, the issue is going to be the organic, the cotton fibers versus the polyesters.
Right.
The like, essentially the polyester fibers getting commingled, which is a very, very hard material to recycle.
Yeah, because
There are-
they're plastic. So
Well,
we've
there
got,
are technologies that separate these things now, but we don't
Yeah,
have them. We don't have them
There's-
in
There
here.
are emerging technologies right now, basically depolymerization technologies that actually break down the plastics, like, into the constituent monomers that hopefully can be scaled to be able to handle textile and fabric recycling on a larger basis. But for the most part, like, not many textiles can be recycled. And, which really, should motivate us as a society to really, clothe ourselves. Well, not subscribe to fast fashion, number one. And number two, really, if we are going to be making garment choices, to really look for natural natural materials like, cotton, or basically versus man-made materials that cannot be handled by the environment.
And to do as much 100%, wear as much 100% content as possible. 100% cotton, 100% linen, 100% silk. It's much easier to recycle, to put into a circular system of regeneration, a monomaterial. That's what that's called.
okay.
Thank
So,
you. That's very
thank you all.
Thank you.
We
Susan,
ended
you
up
have a
going,
question?
we ended up going beyond food.
Susan, yeah.
Sorry, does the company that supplies the bin for the textiles for the building, did they pick it up then?
Yes, yes.
It's a Department of Sanitation program that has awarded a contract to
Housing Works.
Housing Works. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, call them when it's filled, or actually I have a bin. I call them when it's almost about 3/4 filled, so it doesn't overflow. And they come within a week to pick it up.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so
Quick
much.
question for Susan, what is your last name?
Landsman,
I'm sorry, what is it?
Landsman, I put my email in the chat.
Okay, thank you, good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Landsman too.
Okay, so I think we're going to be sharing what we've discussed. I'm wondering if we'll be able to remove the problem with the CNN video, so we run more smoothly. If we can, I think we have a very good discussion.
Well, the CNN video link is in the chat. If anyone
Well, I
wants.
know it's in the chat, but we wasted too much time trying to get to it. So maybe we can remove it and just include all the good stuff that we've been doing together. Okay. Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we have
for
such
coming and being so
an
engaged.
interesting crowd here. I love it.
We hope to see you at our
Thank you.
meeting next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Take
much.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Stay on for a second, Joyce,
Sure.
Allison, Matt.
Okay.
I guess Karen and Barbara are still on, but maybe not at their computers. Do you guys want to save the chat?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Can you, we could
No,
do,
I don't have control to save it.
Matt, can you save the chat?
And stop recording, whoever has control.
I don't know. I don't know why I don't see the option of,
I press on it, says stop cloud recording.
okay.
It-
so-
I don't know
so-
that I have control, but
But we want to be able to save the chat, and I don't know if Matt is here.
Matt, can you hear us, Matt?
Matt, you're muted.
I'm texting him. Can you
Save the chat.
save the chat?
Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Can you save the chat, please?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
gonna-
now, and the other question is there a way of cutting out all that problem with the CNN video?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna-
yeah, we can edit this out. We can
Okay,
edit
'cause,
this. I have to upload this to YouTube, so I'll edit it when I get to YouTube.
Okay, yes, because I thought it was a great discussion. Even including the fact that you and I were disagreeing about the plastic bags, that's okay.
And- and That's fine.